today, as is the tradition, every other Monday afternoon. And on those afternoons, we are having coffee, tea together with LCC alumni to share the stories and success paths of the alumni that have gone through LCC education. And we are reconnecting and learning where they are and what they do. So today, my guest is the graduate of 2001 class, Ieva, former
Sillipp.
Chapaita, current now Sillipp. So Ieva, welcome. It is so good to see you here with us today. And as we were promoting this webinar, that today's theme that Ieva chose is breaking stigmas and following your vision. So Ieva will be incorporating her theme in all her answers, in all her insights. So Ieva, thank you for taking up the time and joining us online. We are here to learn from you, learn what you have done, what is your passion right now, and what are your words of wisdom for LCC current students, future students, and those who want to learn more about LCC. So maybe let's start with you telling a bit about what you are engaged in right now. So we learn about where you are currently at, and then we'll kind of go back to the past, into the present through questions and through your sharing.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So hi from Turin in Italy. This is my new home. I've been here for 10 years actually now. And 20 years since I left, which is 2001 when I emigrated from Klaipeda. Right now, I am working as executive sales coach for Southwestern Coaching. And it's an American company, have been in business for over 160 years, and I cannot be happier to be a part of this team because we help businesses to be better. And I am more than humbled to be a part of this team because it kind of brought me back home. This is European unit of Southwestern Coaching, and we are basically coaching mainly people around the world, but we also do coaching in Baltic states, which brought me back home because I can coach Lithuanian and of course English.
Okay, so you are now in coaching, as we've learned. Your life has taken you quite far away from your hometown, which is Klaipeda. So, but let's go back then to the LCC days, right? So we know where your career has led you by this point in life. So let's go back to LCC and maybe reflect on your path to the current day and just kind of sharing how has LCC prepared you and shaped you um, for your current role and for your position right now.
Okay, I hope we have lots of time. Just kidding. Yeah, I graduated 20 years ago, which seems like centuries ago. And at around this time, 20 years ago, I remember it was such a beautiful sunny day. What I think we were also the first class that got university degree with LCC, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't been back to LCC since, so it's been exactly 20 years, but I know. But I promised to my kids are now 4 and 7. I promised them that I'm gonna bring them back to my alma mater one day, maybe not this year, but next year for sure. One thing, I was going through my memory lane about LCC, and what I really remember was this really strange image came into my mind was these blue carpets in LCC. I don't know if you still have them, but no.
Well, this is yeah, why you have to come back,
That's why I have to, but I
especially
hope
this.
you renovate it.
Yes, this coming academic year, LCC will be celebrating its 30th anniversary. So
Oh,
for all alumni out there, this is one of those years when it is the right to come back and celebrate the anniversary with us to see whether some carpets are still there or aren't there, or bring your children. So yeah, like 20 years is a long time for sure.
it's a lifetime. Yeah, so but let's go back to the carpets and why I remember them. I don't just remember the carpets, I also remember the feeling of the carpets on my feet. And the reason why is because after the second year of college, I was able, I don't know if you still have the same system, and I hope you do. What I really liked was that I was able to start kind of molding my own curriculum, which was English language and literature. And I call her mentor, and I should probably write to her and tell her that I feel like this about her. Audras Kukuskaite, the professor who is still in US, uh, as far as I know, very famous professor too. She was the person that I took every single course that she was teaching back then. And so I took this course with her. It was teaching English as a second language. And one of the courses, one of the requirements that I had to do was to teach English as a second language to people from outside college. These were the adults, and I was only 21, so I had to teach, I remember, these architects and professors in English. And because it was my first job, real job, I had to prepare a lot. And this is one thing that I started learning in college, that in order to be really good, you really need to work hard. And what I used to do in college, and no one knows this, it's the first time I'm speaking about this, is that I used to prep in college for these classes, and it used to be late in the evening, I think maybe 8 o'clock. And I used to take my shoes then after, and I would walk in the halls of college, like completely empty, dead empty college, and just prepare myself, rehearse the lessons that I had to teach later on. And this silence of college, of very busy college, and that feeling of these blue carpets on my feet, I still feel it. When I went through this memory lane, these memories are really vivid in my head.
Right. Well, I mean, I remember back in those days, we were all saying, I mean, first of all, that I mean, university halls would have carpets. That was already unusual. But I mean, you are referring where the university felt like the second home, and
Exactly.
that's cool. I think we would still, like, if we were to rewind the tapes of what happened in normal days at night, like we would probably still see students walking. I mean, that still happens
Yes.
barefoot, preparing for classes or their own personal, tutoring experiences and so forth.
Yeah,
That's
for
a
sure.
that's a cool memory.
Interesting memory.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were an English major, right? So
Mhm.
that's what you were studying for, and in the description for the event, we did list, that you had um, managerial experience, business owning experience. So, how does an English major go through these different pathways? And even now, what you're doing, the coaching career. So, how come the English major led you in that direction?
Um, First of all, I have to admit that I always wanted to study psychology, but back then, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the entrance exam to university, to Vilnius University, where my parents became psychologists, was math. And I could not pass math in my wildest dreams. So while college was not my second choice, I always wanted to be psychologist. I always wanted to do this. But so I went through college, and when I graduated, I had three choices. I was admitted to do masters in translations in University of Vilnius, I think. I could have gone and worked as a receptionist. That was my first job offer, and I'm really, really bad at receptionist job. I would fire myself if I could. I say that all the time. I'm the worst receptionist you can hire. And the third option, which no one supported, was I wanted to be independent because I went through college living at home. And I have a father who I lived at home for 24 years. And for 24 years, and through my youth, my dad made me be home by midnight. So I never experienced the nightlife, the fun of all of what people are saying. I never had that. And in some way, I really wanted to experience that. So I chose the third option. And back then, we were not a part of EU. And there was a whole big, expensive process of getting work permits, and I did. And 3 months later, I found myself in Ireland. And I remember taking a plane to Dublin. My mother and father were crying that I'm throwing my life away. And I still took a plane to Dublin, then a bus to Cork, which is where I stayed for the next 10 years, with a promise that I will come back a year after. But I never did. And I remember that work permit only said that you will be working as an assistant in the shop after graduating from university. And I still decided I'm still going to do it. So I found myself in the petrol station. The next day, I found myself in the petrol station making sandwiches for the builders. Ireland was building at that point. Ireland was experiencing golden ages. So my first job was in petrol station making sandwiches. And I did that and I hated it. But through that, because I came from a family where parents always worked, and in order to go through college, you had to study. There was no way to fake it, not to be a part of college. You had to study. In my family, you had to work and you had to study to have both. So already moved to Ireland having this attitude of I need to work, I need to study, I need to move forward. So 6 months later, I found being assistant manager in that petrol station. And when I was leaving the place 3.5 years later, the owner, I remember, he offered me to pay for my master's so I would commit for another 4 years working with him. But I didn't. And it was probably one of the best decisions I made. I never studied master's. I never got my master's degree. LCCC is my only alma mater. And so I left petrol station and I got promotion as a team leader in this Selfridges. It's a part of Brown Thomas Canadian company. And this is where I started breaking stigmas. Back home, I was always called bossy. I was always organizing things, was never sitting in one place, was always in something, doing something. And people were calling me bossy, you are bossy this, you are bossy that. And it was always a negative this about me. And when I moved to Ireland, I realized that bossy is actually team player, leader, independent moneymaker, entrepreneur. It's not annoying, dictatorial, intrusive, never sitting still. It's most of the time was really good quality that I actually carried, but didn't know that it was positive. So when I realized that, I actually became really successful at what I was doing, because while I still had doubts in myself, at the same time, I was seeing the results of, if I look at this positive, if I am positive, if I'm following my goals, my tasks, if I'm working hard, I can be anything. And this is what brought me the biggest promotion in my life. And in coaching, we call it my confidence anchor. It was on my 27th birthday when the Selfridges it wasn't Selfridges, it was Brown Thomas. Let's call it Brown Thomas. They promoted me. They gave me the fourth biggest store out of 32 stores in Ireland to manage. And this was unheard of for someone that came from Eastern Europe. It was unheard of in general that somebody would get a store at that high level so quickly, having only been worked in the company for a year. So this is the time when I feel down, I always go back to that moment in the park when my announcement of my promotion was posted on the website of the company. And I always, this confidence anchor always gives me this push if I feel like I'm falling down. And yeah, after that, I met my husband, who is Canadian chiropractor. And we always had this dream of living near the mountains. My husband is a keen snowboarder, living near the mountains, having a dolce vita lifestyle, eating tomatoes and mozzarella. So we one day we just packed everything up, and in our old Volkswagen we moved to Italy, and that was not easy. The life in Italy didn't come as dolce vita straight away by any means. We struggled. We built business, chiropractic business. We threw ourselves into it. I used my management experience and my team building and playing and everything else, and he used his chiropractic knowledge and again experience in Ireland, and we started building basically brick by brick. Sometimes that brick was not very solid, that would fall on our heads, but we persisted and we built, and then our kids came. Our kids are now 4 and 7, and I had to stop working for a while. I actually became a teacher in that period when my husband was able to manage the studio by himself. I always wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted just to try to see what it really feels to be full-time teacher, because this is what Audra Skukauskaite told me, taught me. And I really loved it. I still have a couple of students because uh, students stay here with you for quite a few years if you are good. And the longest student I had stayed with me for 9 years. I took her in when she was 8-year-old girl, and then when she graduated school, it was our last lesson, and I cried after our last lesson because I had 2 kids with that student. So I found teaching very fulfilling. And I suppose that happened after Martina, my 9-year student. When she finished school, I started looking for something more. I wanted to go back to managing. I was aching for that kind of buzz of team playing, of managing, of seeing the results and maybe struggling and finding out. And also, as I said, I always struggled with this mentality of maybe a little small town girl that maybe doesn't deserve to be successful. And that's how I came to coaching. And when my younger son was 1, I took a big coaching course, which was Vancouver-based franchise in Milan. I took that course, became a certified coach. I am not an ICF member. I just never got my hands on it. But that opened another wonderful chapter of my life. It's what I realized is that I always followed my vision. I always wanted to be a teacher, so I became a teacher. I always wanted to travel and to see things and to live in beautiful places and to have my tomato and mozzarella moments in the evening. And everything came true, but it didn't come true easy. Sometimes it was really, really hard. And there were times when we were giving up, but because we continued working towards our vision, now life is really good.
Well, I think, I mean, for the audience, it's always seems so easy to listen to someone who has been following their vision and their heart,
Mm,
but that's not an easy thing to do. And as you're
no.
saying, like there were bricks falling on your head and so forth. But we're, you know, when you chose the theme for today, right, the breaking
Mm.
stigmas and following your vision, what how would you encourage others, to follow their vision, to follow what their heart wants, like where to take the strength and how to be brave about this, like what would you advise others based on your own experience?
Good question. I suppose as long as I had plan B, and this is another topic, I do not believe in plans B. And when you remove the plan B from equation, you only look forward. You only follow what's in front of you. I always had good home to come back to from Ireland. I always had parents who would have embraced me with all fours just to come back and be home and stay at home and be home by 12 o'clock at night. But for me, that was a beautiful home to come back, but never a plan to come back to. I always pushed myself because if you don't, you stay still, and if you stay still, you become negative, passive, and you start listening to all these the TV that is full of fear. And don't stay still. Count every conversation you have, count every book you read. I know it's easy to say this, but I went through all of this, and I had a lot of downs, but a lot of also ups in my life. And you for life in college was hard because we had to study, most of us had to study and work. But life after college is where you actually find yourself. You need this education to help you to find your vision, to help you to define yourself. But when you start following your vision, you find life in so many different ways. You understand yourself in so many different ways, and breaking stigmas. We all have these fears in our heads. None of us is born perfect. None of us had the perfect childhood, even though I do claim that I had a wonderful childhood. Together was nice there. But life can be tough, really tough. But I think it's important not to forget that where you're going, use everything and around everyone and around everybody around you to help you to get there. There were moments in my life when I became successful. When I moved to Ireland, I lived with this Polish family, and then there were a couple more Polish families in our house. And I think they still live in that house while I moved on. And the thing is that I felt that with success and when you're moving forward, some people don't want to move forward, but you have to let these people go. For a very long time, I kept going back, and they kept asking me, why are you doing this? Why do you need this work? Why do you need this crazy traveling? You need to find what's good for you. For me, I was happy having success, and I had to let these people go. And while I was regretted at the time, now I feel that it was just a step in my life that I had to make. And now I'm surrounded with, our kids are homeschooled, and we are surrounded by this wonderful community where we thrive, all of us, because we share the same values, the same beliefs, the same everything. And you need to look for this. You cannot ask somebody to hold you back, or let someone hold you back.
Well, I think, I mean, you very nicely put it that everyone must find what inspires and drives them, right? For some people,
Sure.
it is staying, in the perfect created world. For others, it's the search for something. And in your case, I think this is where you are sharing truly an inspiring story that how not to be afraid and follow your vision, your desires, your heart. But also one thing that I really kind of what I'm hearing you, and to me it very much correlates to the thing how we always describe LCC, and that has actually come through our other previous webinars with our previous guests who were also sharing their stories of risk taking. And at LCC, we've always defined, we still often define ourselves that we are this great place for risk takers, for students who are not afraid to choose a different unknown model of education, because it is not typical in this part of the world. You come to this North American bubble. And then, how to watch how our alumni continue being these risk takers in whatever path they choose. And that's exactly what you've done. So I do want to link back to your LCC days. Yes, you talked about the faculty members who left an imprint on you and inspired you in your education. But I mean, you've talked about the educational model, which I mean that's the liberal arts when students have the freedom to mold and shape their education. So that continues to be there, of course, as well. But what do you think also shaped you through your LCC experience that you would reflect now when you look back at the past and you would say, well, that this was, something, an imprint that LCC left on you and your career.
I actually, thanks for asking this. I actually thought about this today a lot. Uh, I am not religious and I never belonged to any church. Maybe for that one day when my parents baptized me when I was 3 months old, but that was the only time when I belonged to the church. But the thing is, I knew that LCC was a Christian college, but I never felt the outsider in LCC. I had my space in there. I chose the program that was fully in line with where I wanted to head, which what I wanted to do. And I actually failed one of the courses, and the course was English, no, Bible as literature. That was the one course that I failed in college. And while back then was really awful, now I look at it as a great experience because what it gave me a chance is to look into this from a new perspective. I think I had a little bit more time with the professor at the same time, but it really helped me to understand that failure in college is not necessarily a failure in life. It's just sometimes you crumble. Sometimes you take a course or life course that is not yours or that you shouldn't be on, but you make it into something. And when I had to repeat painfully that course, it taught me a lesson, and actually a very valuable one. I did look into Bible as from a different context. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it's very it's these
Oh.
are the moments that people reflect on and
Mm.
what stays with them. um I mean, one of the scriptures also as LCC, and you'll probably remember that in one classroom we did have certain non-negotiables of LCC experience that kind of students go through. So as we talk about students who are risk takers, we're also talk about LCC education being this transformational experience for students. And for everyone, it is their own way. So I'm just wondering, what was or was it what were the transformations in you during your university experience, when you were studying, when or what were your takeaways that you would attribute to shaping you, or adding to the shaping that you are today?
I suppose, as I said before, the fact that I was not religious, that I did not belong to any church, I still found my place in there. And that was important to me, that no matter where you are, you can still be who you are. Another thing is, I keep remembering Daisy Megley. Oh, I love that professor.
Mhm.
Um, I almost failed her. Okay, I was not a failure in college, but these were two events that I remember. Daisy Megley taught this course called British Literature. And the first course we took was really hard. And then the second one, I remember she came back from Canada and she said, yeah, but if you're going to have another course like you did the first part, you better not take this because this is going to be really tough. And it was really tough. But what I remember she was saying to me, you need to put hard work into this. You need to understand. If you don't understand, you need to figure this out. And Daisy Megley was a professor from capital P because she really instilled the love into. I didn't necessarily love the British literature, but I learned to like the process of figuring things out because she was so passionate about what she was doing, very strict, very high level, but very passionate. And I love that. And in my life, I think I follow these type of people like Daisy Megley, very strong, very passionate. And having this type of mentor in your head with you in your life, I I had Daisy Megley a couple times, Daisy Megley persona in my life a couple times later, and I was attracted to these strong, passionate people. And Daisy Megley was by far the first person that told me the truth and put me into my seat and said, well, you are not going to go anywhere unless you put a lot of hard work into this, and then learn to love it.
It's fun how you know, still remember these particular professors. I guess for every LCC student and every
Mm,
LCC alum, you know, there is probably one or several people that you
mm,
remember, because I mean that is being that's all being a small university, a community where people know each other, and then those are the uh, mentorship like relationships that get formed, and those memories do last
mm,
for a long time.
for
So
sure.
it's sweet to hear you recalling them. So and since Audra is also, you know, she was an alum, so like we'll just need
Yeah.
to make sure we get her sharing as an alum, but also passing, you know, your mentorship comments. So yeah, but you are now, you describe yourself as a life coach. So
Yes.
exactly, you know, as you said, you were interested in psychology. You never, you know, pursued it. You had additional training. So as an excuse me, and an English major who followed your heart, breaking all the stigmas along the road. Tell us a little bit about your current job, current career, and what you are passionate about it the most.
Thank you. I'm actually not a life coach. I'm executive sales coach right now.
Okay, here we
All
go.
right. The details are important. No, just kidding. But yes, I joined Southwestern Coaching about 4 months ago. But again, how I joined it was, I after I did my coaching degree, I coached for a little bit, but I was looking to rejoin the team. And I applied through LinkedIn, and the Southwestern Coaching called me. I had a 12 interview process. They offered me a job, and I said, this job brought me back home. I can now coach in Lithuanian, which I never actually even considered. I went to the English coaching school. So my goal was always to coach in English, but now I can do this both in English and Lithuanian, and that is really humbling to me. What I love about Southwestern is that in Southwestern, we coach businesses, we help businesses to be better. And the way we do it, we are salespeople and we are coaches. So do, we preach what we do, right? Is that the way to say it?
Yeah.
So they do not hire anybody without experience. We all are experienced salespeople, managers. And so I came to this job almost kind of prepared. But one of the biggest advantages that I have in Southwestern is that I am actually a trained life coach. And my team leader is always saying that I am the one that listens the best because I was trained to do that. And I love Southwestern coaching because it gives me a lot of training opportunities, a lot of growth opportunities. I have a huge support from my team, from my Lithuanian and my American team, and from my Estonian team. We have meetings. If I have a question, I always ask them. I have coaches now around the world, and I can work from home. I can pick up my kids. I can spend time with kids because I have. This is where I always say to my husband, that's what I was going to.
Mm.
This is what I always wanted to have, and now I do. And I wake up in the morning and I can't wait to turn the computer on because I will be doing what I love and from where I love. I can still have my Dolce Vita.
Well, I think this is the perfect dream, you know, aspirations for others to see
Mm,
that you can um, that
for
you
sure.
should be pursuing what you want, because that will bring the ultimate happiness. So
Mm,
it's very exciting to hear from you. But as an expert in the coaching world
mm,
now, um, you know what would you I mean, yes, we shared advice on how for the young people, how to not be afraid to pursue their step. But are there any other life lessons that you would want to pass on to them? Like, what are the important things to remember along the way, to not be afraid to listen to your heart? That was, definitely one thing. um, are there any things that now that you look back, you think, ah, I would have been happy to know this ahead of time? Or is everyone supposed to learn and figure their own way?
yeah. Do you still have at LCC this look outside the box
Yeah,
vision?
that is still
Hey,
LCC, right?
honestly, this has been with me in my DNA from the days I was LCC student. Always look outside the box. Not kidding. Honestly, look outside the box. The box is boring. When you start taking yourself out of the comfort zone, that's what the excitement begins. Okay, it's not for everybody, I get it. But if you just peek outside that box, it's really fun. And I remember on my last year news, no, it's not the newsletter, the book that you used to make for us.
The yearbook.
Exactly, the yearbook. In my last yearbook, I wrote, "Don't let the dreams grow over your, don't let the weeds grow over your dreams." And I did follow this. I have never forgotten about don't let the weeds grow over your dreams, because it's very, very easy. It's
Mhm,
when life gets better of you, it's easy to forget your dreams. Very, very easy.
mhm,
But when you have kids and it's a tough period, and I am the witness of tough periods with kids because I'm an expat mom. My mom is 2,000 kilometers from helping me. That's when the life was really difficult for me. But I gave myself that space. I did not rush myself anywhere. And then when kids got bigger, when kids started the school, and I went back to my dreams, do not forget them. Do not let the weeds grow over your dreams. It's totally spot on what's written in my yearbook.
cool. So even back then, that was already
That
in
was
in
already in
your
my.
in your core. Well, I mean, your story and your example is a great inspiration for our current students,
Thank you.
who are thinking of their future, or even for our current grads, just who graduated at the beginning of May, just how to not be afraid to dream, and how to pursue those dreams, and then how to believe in yourself, and in your heart, kind of, and in the heart's voice, right?
Mhm.
But I do want to also bring in our future students into the mix.
Mm,
So, because right now, I mean, the admission process is happening, and we already have lots of new students accepted at LCC, but others are still considering. So, I would want to ask you to share your words of wisdom for the future LCC generation. Why would you recommend or not recommend them to choose LCC? What would you say is important to know before coming to LCC, or maybe who LCC is best for based on your own experience? So just kind of, yeah, reflecting on your own experience, uh, the question of why LCC.
mm. The question of why. I do think LCC is a great school. Honestly, I did have my doubts after school, after college, as I said, when life was hard and I was questioning everything in my life. But LCC gives you this space for you to think. To You can be different, you can be the same, you can be anybody in college, you can make into anything you want. And yes, you can choose to be psychologist in the University of Vilnius, but I think you can also choose to be psychologist at LCC now. I wish that was when I was studying. But at the same time, you get international experience, which is the value in that is immense. It will open, you won't even have to look outside the box. The international experience in LCC is going to open all the boxes for you. You will come out of LCC already knowing a lot more than, I'm not saying that University of Vilnius is not good. I am sure it's great. I've never experienced it, but I am sure it's great. But LCC is going to give you this international experience that you probably cannot get anywhere in Lithuania. And if you want to study abroad, but let's say it's something is stopping you, LCC is the right place to go, because LCC is an international. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's an international university in the most beautiful city in Lithuania.
There we go. Promotion for Klaipėda as well,
Well, I
definitely.
could not miss that.
Yeah, well, we are all biased, who come out from Klaipėda, then this is the place to be. Thank you for your insights. So, and just the final last question, about following your vision. I mean, you very much shared how you are happy and contented where you are. Do you think this is the final stop for you, or do you still have larger visions that and the weeds will not be allowed in your vision box? What's next for you?
Interesting. No, it's not my last. No, it's not.
Well, and as you say, no one ever knows. It's just being open and following your dreams. So, and it sounds like
constantly, like, don't stop dreaming. I have never stopped dreaming, maybe a couple of days per week, but don't stop dreaming. I have not stopped dreaming since the LCC. Since I was a kid. No, this is not the last. I still have thousand things to learn, the books to read, the life to experience. My kids are growing up. I can't wait to show them all of this. We are going on our first camping trip next week, first camping trip with kids. And I grew up camping. I cannot wait for my kids to experience all of this. I cannot wait for my kids to experience this different outdoor education. And we are all dreaming about these things. So no, this is not my last stop. I hope I will be with Southwestern Coaching for a long, long time. Maybe for the job, I'm hoping that this is the last stop, but in our company, we can go as high as we desire to. But dreaming, it never stops.
Well, we are definitely very excited that LCC was a part of your journey in, in contributing to your future shaping and in your spreading out your wings. And it has been truly exciting to hear of your journey and your vision following and you being brave enough to take even very brave and drastic steps, quitting everything and going and searching for new things. So I really hope your story will be an inspiration to our audience, that your story will also be a highlight for our fellow alums and former and current faculty members to reconnect with LCC family members. So thank you very much, Ieva, for taking the time today to share your life, to share your journey. Our happiness is in the catching up with our alumni, especially now as LCC International University is approaching its 30th anniversary year. Then reflecting on the results, on the fruit of of the university is truly the joy in seeing these results, and we take pride in all our alumni. So I just want to express thanks on behalf of LCC and to just give you the floor for any last comments, any last observations that you may wish to make.
No, thank you. Thank you. It was really good to be talking on behalf of LCC alumni. It was really humbling. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Ieva. And for now, we are saying goodbye. I'm saying goodbye, wishing everyone a beautiful summer evening or summer morning, wherever you are. And thanks again to Ieva for being with us. And until we meet again online. So goodbye for everyone.
Bye.